Picture this. You're standing on Mars, the famous red planet. Dusty rocks stretch as far as the eye can see. It's quiet, cold, and seemingly lifeless. But what if I told you that right beneath your feet, there could be an ocean large enough to cover the entire planet? Today, we're diving into the mysterious world of Mars. And boy, do we have some mind-blowing stuff to share. You see, for the longest time, we thought Mars was just a big dead desert in space. Dry, cold, maybe with some frozen ice caps, but nothing too exciting, right? Well, recent discoveries are flipping that story on its head. From underground oceans to unexplained marsquakes, the red planet is serving up one baffling mystery after another. And the craziest part? These discoveries aren't just reshaping what we know about Mars. They're making us rethink everything we thought we understood about life in our solar system. So, buckle up and get ready for a cosmic roller coaster ride. We're about to explore the unexplained phenomena on Mars that are leaving even the smartest scientists scratching their heads. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll never look at that little red dot in the night sky the same way again. Let's start with a little history lesson, shall we? Mars wasn't always the dry, dusty planet we see today. In fact, billions of years ago, it was more like Earth's twin. Imagine rivers cutting through Martian valleys, lakes dotting the landscape, and even small oceans lapping at rocky shores. Hard to believe, right? But here's the kicker. Where there's water, there's usually life. At least, that's how it works on Earth. Water is like nature's magic potion for biology. It helps move all those important molecules around, kind of like how our blood carries oxygen and nutrients to our cells. So, if Mars had water back then, who's to say it didn't have life too? But then, something happened. About 3 billion years ago, Mars started to change. Its atmosphere began to disappear, and with it, all that lovely liquid water. Without the pressure from the atmosphere, the water just poof, evaporated into space. Or at least, that's what we thought happened. Now, let's fast forward to more recent times. Enter NASA's InSight lander, the unsung hero of this story. While everyone's been fawning over the rovers and that cute little helicopter, InSight's been quietly rewriting the book on Mars. InSight touched down on Mars in 2018, in a flat, boring-looking area called Elysium Planitia. Its job? To listen for marsquakes. Yeah, you heard that right, earthquakes, but on Mars. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, doesn't Mars not have tectonic plates? And you'd be right. That's what makes this so weird. The lander used a super-sensitive instrument called a seismometer, protected by a white dome to keep out wind and thermal interference. For years, it sat there, patiently listening to the internal rumblings of the red planet. And boy, did it hear some things. On May 4th, 2022, InSight detected a whopper of a marsquake. We're talking magnitude 5 on the Richter scale, with vibrations that kept going for 6 hours. Naturally, scientists first thought, maybe it was a meteor impact. But nope. Satellite images showed no new craters big enough to cause such a shake. So, there it was, undeniable proof that Mars gets quakes. But why? Remember, Mars doesn't have tectonic plates like Earth. Well, it turns out that even a planet with one big continuous crust can still have some shake, rattle, and roll going on. Think about it. Mars has some seriously uneven terrain. You've got thin spots, thick spots, and don't even get me started on those massive volcanoes. All that uneven weight distribution can cause the crust to crack and shift. It's kind of like if you put too much weight on one side of a frozen lake. Eventually, something's got to give. But here's where things get really wild. Those marsquake vibrations. They didn't just prove Mars was shaking. They revealed something hidden deep below the surface, something that has scientists buzzing with excitement and scratching their heads in confusion. Are you ready for this? Mars has an underground ocean. I'm not talking about a little puddle or even a modest lake. We're talking about enough water to cover the entire planet in a layer about half a mile deep. Mind blown. This isn't an ocean like we have on Earth. It's more like water-saturated rock, buried deep beneath the surface. On Earth, we call this kind of thing ringwoodite. It's rock that's so hot and under so much pressure that it squeezes out water. Here's the really cool part. This Martian underground ocean is way closer to the surface than Earth's version. We're talking about 6 to 12 miles down, compared to the 400-mile depth of Earth's underground reservoir. That's still pretty deep, but in cosmic terms, it's practically paddling pool depth. So, how did all this water get down there? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It could have been there for billions of years, trapped underground since the time when Mars had surface water. Or maybe it's somehow migrated from the surface to this underground reservoir. We just don't know yet. But here's a thought that'll really bake your noodle. If water moved from the surface to underground, could it have taken the building blocks of life with it? And if so, could there be some form of life, however tiny, swimming around in Mars' underground ocean right now? Before you get too excited, remember that even on Earth, we have no idea if our underground ocean supports life. The deepest hole we've ever drilled, the Kola Super Deep borehole in Russia, only goes down about 7.5 miles. And let me tell you, even getting that far was a massive achievement. At the bottom of that hole, temperatures reach a whopping 356 degree Celsius, 180 degrees 6. That's hot enough to boil water at surface pressure. But under all that rock, the water stays liquid. And get this, they found microscopic fossils of single-celled organisms as far down as 4.3 miles. Life finds a way, as they say. Now, imagine trying to drill a hole like that on Mars. Talk about a challenge. The logistics of getting drilling equipment to Mars, operating it remotely, and dealing with the harsh Martian environment. That's a whole other level of difficulty. But the underground ocean isn't the only mystery Mars is serving up. Let's talk about the curious case of Martian methane. Here on Earth, methane is often a byproduct of life. Microbes produce it, cows produce it, and even some geological processes can create it. So when NASA's Curiosity rover detected spikes of methane in Mars's atmosphere, it raised some eyebrows. These weren't just tiny whiffs either. We're talking about sudden increases of up to 21 parts per billion. That's a lot in atmospheric terms. The weird part? These methane spikes seem to follow a seasonal pattern. They peak at the end of the Martian summer in the northern hemisphere. But where is this methane coming from? Is it being released from underground reservoirs? Could it be produced by some form of Martian life? Or is there some geologic process we don't understand yet? The jury's still out on this one. And then there are the recurring slope lineae. These are dark streaks that appear on some Martian slopes during the warmest months, then fade away as it gets colder. When they were first spotted, everyone got excited, thinking they might be caused by flowing water. But recent studies suggest they might be dry avalanches of dust and sand instead. Still, their seasonal nature remains a puzzle. Let's not forget about some of the weird geological formations on Mars that have left scientists scratching their heads. There's the face on Mars, which turned out to be a trick of light and shadow on a natural rock formation. But what about the perfectly hexagonal craters near the Martian North Pole? Or the strange spider-like patterns etched into the surface in some areas? Each of these features tells us something about Mars's geology and climate, both past and present. But they also remind us how much we still have to learn about our planetary neighbour. So, what does all this mean for the future of Mars exploration? Well, for one thing, it means we need to look deeper, literally. Future missions might focus on drilling into the Martian surface or using ground-penetrating radar to map out that underground ocean. We're also going to need new technologies. Drilling on Mars isn't like drilling on Earth. We need equipment that can withstand extreme cold, operate in near-vacuum conditions, and work with minimal human intervention. It's a tall order, but hey, we've landed a helicopter on Mars. I'd say we're up for the challenge. And of course, there's the big question. Is there life on Mars? Maybe not on the surface, where conditions are harsh and radiation levels are high, but underground, in that vast ocean beneath the red rocks. That's a possibility we can't ignore. As we wrap up our Martian mystery tour, let's take a moment to appreciate just how far we've come in our understanding of the red planet. From a tiny red dot in the sky to a world of underground oceans, methane mysteries, and marsquakes. Mars continues to surprise and fascinate us. Every new discovery challenges what we thought we knew, not just about Mars, but about the potential for life in our solar system. It reminds us that the universe is stranger and more wonderful than we can imagine, and that there are still so many mysteries waiting to be solved. So the next time you look up at the night sky and spot that reddish point of light, remember, Mars isn't just a dead, dusty world. It's a planet of secrets, of hidden oceans, and unexplained phenomena. It's a world that's daring us to dig deeper, to ask bigger questions, and to keep exploring. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be the ones standing on that red soil, feeling the rumble of a marsquake beneath our feet and uncovering the next great Martian mystery. Until then, we'll keep our eyes on the sky, our robots on the ground, and our imaginations running wild with the possibilities of what we might find next on the mysterious red planet.